The Department of Homeland Security has updated its terrorism advisory bulletin, drawing renewed attention to domestic terror threats.
DHS warns that LGBTQ, Jewish, and migrant communities are at a particularly high risk of being attacked by Americans with violent ideologies. The bulletin comes just weeks after the mass shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us for more. So, Julia, good morning. How serious are these domestic threats compared to international threats? And how have attacks like the one in Colorado Springs fueled the fire, essentially?
Well, it's interesting. When you ask DHS officials and really any intelligence officials across the federal government how they're handling these threats, they don't say that they have taken their eye off the ball of foreign threats, but certainly what they call a persistent lethal threat is coming from Americans right here who have been radicalized, oftentimes online, by social media, to target certain groups. And the groups that they're concerned about now, as you just laid out, include LGBTQ, Jewish community, as well as migrants. A lot of this is based on recent events, and unfortunately what can happen sometimes is events, tragic events like this shooting in Colorado Springs, like what's been happening in the Jewish community, comments from people like Kanye West. Unfortunately, those can serve as a motivation for people who already have some extreme ideologies, and it can push them further toward violence. Another challenge they have is they can't go after free speech. It is okay to make hateful comments online. It's not okay to act violently. So oftentimes it's a very thin sliver of time that federal law enforcement has to act before someone goes from racist thoughts to racist actions.
The bulletin mentions an enduring threat to the Jewish community. You just mentioned Kanye West, known now as Ye. I mean, is there any evidence that rhetoric that we've seen from high-profile figures like Ye is making the situation worse?
That's exactly the question that I asked these DHS officials yesterday when they put out this bulletin. And they said, without calling out Ye specifically, or the former President Donald Trump, who recently met with Ye, and someone who's known to be a white supremacist, they said, look, anytime a high-profile figure, whether that's a celebrity or someone who is in public office or used to be in public office, or in Trump's case now running again for public office, anytime they fuel that discourse, it doesn't do anything good. In fact, what they said is it traffics these conspiracy theories often that only fuel people to make to continue that language online and then possibly to act. So it does definitely concern them, Joe.
Julia, DHS also says, quote, potential changes in border enforcement policy could increase the amount of violence against migrants. So what kind of changes are we talking about here? And how does the number of migrants crossing our borders heighten calls for violence?
You know, it's interesting. That is actually one of the things that they're forecasting going forward, not necessarily just looking at rhetoric right now. And one of the reasons for that is that on December 21st, and we'll be talking about this a lot, I'm sure, leading up to it, but on December 21st, these COVID-19 restrictions on the border are going to lift unless it's enjoined by courts. And that would mean a lot more migrants coming into the United States able to claim asylum. It's not a new policy. It's a return to the normal that existed before COVID-19. And so more migrants are going to be allowed into the country. It could also serve as a magnet for more people to make the journey. And DHS officials are worried that people who are anti-immigrant might use that as a reason to lash out against migrant communities, either people at the border or maybe migrants who are living in their own communities already, because they will now be seen as targets for people who really have more of a xenophobic identity and a nationalistic identity, that those people could also be targets of violence. It's something they're paying attention to. And as those numbers increase and people start to feed into hysteria about those numbers, they're worried that they could see violence.
All right, Julia Ainsley, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.